Can y'all give me 10 seconds because I got to tell Andrew something real quick. Okay, thanks. Hey, how many of you are sitting next to somebody that you like? Anybody honest enough to say you're sitting next to somebody you don't really care for? Anybody? All right, well, go ahead and tell the person that you like. Just go ahead and look at them. Go ahead. I'll wait. Just go ahead and tell them, I'm really sorry. Go ahead and tell them. Said, I'm about to sing really, really loud. So I apologize for what you're about to hear, but I ain't singing for you anyway, so it's all right. See how easy that is? Now you can worship with abandon, because if anybody ever knocks your worship, you just go, look, dum-dum, I ain't worshiping for you anyway, you know? So this is not American Idol. Make a joyful noise. I love that verse because it means tone-deaf people can worship. Maybe not with a microphone, but, you know, maybe they can worship. Well, all right, why don't you stand up, high five about 3 people and tell them you're about to hear some rowdy worship in here.
As we raise this battle cry. God who makes a way. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. High King of heaven, in your presence.
Come on, tell him.
Oh, how good you are. You're falling down like heaven's rain, enthroned upon your children's praise. You're tearing down our barricades as we say, so we welcome the healer in this place. Yeah. We welcome the author of our faith. We welcome the God who makes the way. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. Let your living waters flow on sons and daughters. We will not resist your heart. So come and bring the breakthrough. Surrender to you all. Our hope is in you. Sing it. Let your living waters fall on sons and daughters. We will not resist your heart. Oh, have your way, Jesus. So come and bring the breakthrough. We surrender to you all. Our hope is in you, God. We welcome the healer in this place. We welcome the author of our faith. We welcome the God who makes a way out of no way. His name is Jesus. We worship the name of Jesus. We welcome the healer in this place. We welcome the author of our faith. We welcome the God who makes the way. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. You're falling down like heaven's rain, enthroned upon your children's praise. You're tearing down barricades. Oh, as we say, we welcome the healer in this place.
Come on.
We welcome the author of our faith. We welcome the God who makes a way. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus.
was falling. His body on the cross, His blood poured out for us, the weight of it final breath as heaven looks away. The Son of God is in us. high the mountain I could not climb. Come on, sing it. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. And through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadow of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory. Come on, yeah, to wear my sin, and He bare my shame. The cross has broken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me His own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, come on. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe out of the silence. The roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Come on.
Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your very body began to breathe
Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope.
Come on and just lift up a shout of praise. We worship you, Jesus.
I double dog dare you to take 7 seconds and scream like you had never screamed in your life. Your shout breaks walls down. Whatever is in your way, you can shout the hell out of it and walk through it. You realize there's demons in here that are attached to people that we don't even know. Demons have been assigned to some of us. I declare in the name of Jesus, every demon that can hear me, go back to your master and tell him that you failed at your task. You are not welcome here. We will lift up the name of Jesus Christ. And just that word right there drives demons crazy. You realize that? So on the count of 3, just shout the name Jesus to the top of your lungs and watch all of hell and demons flee. 1, 2, 3. Have a seat. You in for it today, man. I'm just in. Woo! Man.
I went on sabbatical, came back, and we're Pentecostal. Wow, I don't know. You can't throw the towel in yet. You got work to do. So, hey, we are really glad you're here. You sound like you're really glad to be here. Yes? In case we've not met, my name is Rich Peterson. I'm the missions pastor here, and we want to welcome you either to or welcome you back to Bear Valley Church. Those of you who have been coming for a little while, regular guests and regular attender, hey, we welcome you back. But for those of you who are here for your first time, we welcome you to the global impacting ministry of Bear Valley Church. And we know how difficult it can be, even if you came with a friend, to come into a place like this. You don't maybe know anybody, you don't know where you're supposed to sit, what you're supposed to do. So we're just really glad you're here, the courage that it might have required for you to be here today. So we wanted to give you something. It's just a little something, but it's kind of cool. It's this drawstring bag, and inside this bag is a charger. And what that charger does is it can enliven your sex appeal. It can recharge your ministry and marriage. It can spark new friendships. And while it won't do any of those things, I am told that the device can charge almost anything you hold in your hand these days. So if this is your first time here, please get one of these at the information desk as you leave. If you really want one, you could probably talk somebody into you being able to purchase it. So I don't know if I was supposed to say that yet or not, but they're pretty cool. Hey, just a few ministry announcements so that you don't miss out on anything. We are this Thursday starting what we are calling our Bear Valley Church Community Care Center. And what that is we're creating a space in our downstairs pantry area where people who are in need can come and get items such as food or socks or hygiene items. We're going to open it up on the second and fourth Thursdays of every month from about 4 to 7. We want to offer people the opportunity to be loved on by us in the name of Jesus, but also to have their needs taken care of in a way that brings dignity to them. We have always given food to people who have come by in need of that, but we want to design it in a different way so that our community in need knows that we care about them and knows that we really love them and knows that they can be treated with great respect in this place. So we have about 25 people who have volunteered to make that ministry happen, but we're going to be looking for others. I'm sure if it's something that you would want to be a part of, call the church office and we'll direct you in the right way. The other thing that I want you to be mindful of are these kind of promo pieces for our trunk or treat this year. We're going to do a trunk or treat on the 27th of October in the afternoon. These are for you to give to your friends and for you to give to your neighbors and the kids that live around you and even people you don't like. We want everybody to be here on October 27th. We're going to have a bounce house and cake walk and popcorn and lots and lots and lots and lots of candy, but only if you bring it. So we need you to bring bags of candy. When you're going to get your Halloween candy, get a couple of extra bags, bring it to us, and we will make sure that people in our community are well taken care of and that we just have a lot of fun. Last year, we had over 900 people from our community be a part of our trunk or treat. Yeah, that's really fun. Very fun. We have 11, though, trunks. So not only do we need candy, we need trunks. Not the grandma kind of trunk that you were given as an heirloom, but your trunk of your car. Because I don't think many of you came on bus today. You have a vehicle. All we need you to do is pop the trunk open, put lots of candy in it. You might make yourself look a little silly for that day. And we have 11 trunks now. We need 45. So we have some work to do. That, I'm talking to you if you haven't signed up. The staff is all going to be there. We're going to be dressed up in silly ways and just have a lot of fun. So don't miss out on that. And then just for the men, it is an opportunity. Well, I guess it could be for your wives too, because if you go on the retreat, it'll really feel good for them. But we're doing a men's retreat this fall, November 15th through the 17th. All men of all ages are welcomed and encouraged to come. There is a flyer in your bulletin that talks about that, and a real easy way to sign up and even pay for that retreat online. So you don't want to miss any of those things. Now, who is ready? I think I don't even need to ask this service this question, because you guys have already displayed you're really willing to have a lot of fun. But are you willing to have some more fun? Okay, so we have been doing a series entitled What is Love? And we are taking that passage that's fairly well known to all of us, especially if you've been to a wedding, from 1 Corinthians 13. We are kind of asking that question and answering it in various ways. Well, one of the things that we thought would be really fun is to do some love songs from our culture that would maybe encourage us to love just a little bit better. So today is a very, very upbeat song. It was originally done by Whitney Houston, and you are invited to do what you are never invited to do in church, and that is you are invited to dance. Now, I'm not a dancer. It's probably why I was so comfortable growing up a Baptist, because you weren't supposed to do that, because it led to all kinds of other things, and they never told you what the other things were, but you weren't supposed to do it. So here's our special invitation, though. And it's because the culture around us just doesn't get it when it comes to committed love. So we're really wanting those of you who have been married for over 35 years to lead the way. I really need to see you out in the aisles. First service, we had a gentleman who was dancing in his wheelchair, electric wheelchair. He was doing circles. It was the craziest and best thing I've ever seen. A couple over here, dancing over here. And so you have to stand. Everybody at least has to stand. Those over 35 years of marriage have to lead the way in dancing. And then if the others want to follow, you go for it too. Ready? 1, 2, 3. have no idea how hard that was for me to even invite you to do that. So we set the bar at 35 because Cynthia and I have only been married for 31. I looked at her and she looked at me and went, because she has seen me dance. And it is by far the awfulest thing you have ever experienced in your life. So a lot of soul for a white woman, right? Man. So I have been an English speaker, believe it or not, for a really, really long time. Not fluent, but just an English speaker. And I still have a problem with this word love. I mean, you would think that in our day and time, we could describe this marvelous thing with more than just one word. But like, I love a lot of things. I love ice cream. I've begun to love, because my daughter works at a pie shop now, I love banana cream pie. But I love my parents. I love my kids. I love my grandkids. I love my wife, even though she won't dance with me. I love to take long walks, and I love to read good books, and I love to travel. And we use that one word to describe everything that we want to with regard to love. You'd think we'd be a little more creative, especially in a culture that has created its own language for coffee, right? I mean, like, I go in to order a cup of coffee, please, and the barista looks at me as though I have 4 heads, and she then asks, well, what kind of coffee? I mean, do you want an espresso? Do you want a cappuccino? Do you want an Americano? Do you want a flat white? Do you want a flat, skinny flat latte? What kind of coffee? We've created an entire language for coffee, but we have one word for love in the English language. Now, you can choose to believe whether or not I did this during my 6-week sabbatical, but I actually read the 20-volume Oxford Dictionary. How many believe that? Nobody's that gullible. Good, because no, I didn't do that. But according to the Oxford Dictionary, that 20-volume dictionary, there are 171,476 words in the English language, of which the average English speaker uses 20,000 of those words. Compare that to the Greek language. The Greek language has 5 million different words. And there are 70 million variations on those 5 million words, making it, according to Guinness's Book of World Records, the richest language in the world. So when the Greeks talked about love, they talked about it somewhat differently, using a variety of words to describe what they were getting at. For instance, they used that word that we seem in our American culture to be addicted to, and that is romantic love. Or sexual love. Every love song on the radio is all about romantic love. And they had a word for that in Greek. It was the word eros, from which we derive erotic or sexual or passionate love. But they also had a word that described this deep friendship, a brotherly kind of love. We derive the city's name in Philadelphia from brotherly love, from phileo, that Greek word for a longer lasting friendship. But they also had a love that described the kind of love that I have for my parents, and that my parents have for me as their son, that I have for my children. It was a love that they referred to as storge. It was that kind of love. They also had this love that was a reference to playful love. Like the kind of playfulness that children engage in when they dance, and there's no sexual connotation. There's just the simple music going on, and their body moves because they're filled with a joy that has overcome them. They're playful in the way they love. And looking at some of us, in just a few minutes ago, we probably could stand for a little bit more playfulness. They also had a word, it was pragma, and it described that deep and mature love that can only really be accomplished and established in people in long-lasting relationships. Where maybe you'll think in terms of our culture always saying that we have to fall in love, pragma was more on the idea that we stand in love. They also had a word for self-love. And the Greeks, because they're pretty clever, they knew that self-love could either go in an unhealthy direction or a healthy direction. So in an unhealthy direction, it was this self-obsessive love that only concerns oneself about oneself. They had a word for it. It was narcissism. But they also realized that there could be a healthy self-love. That you love yourself in a healthy way, and that healthy self-love allowed you to love those around you. But none of those words for love is the word that is used in the love song of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Joey started us on a series entitled, What is Love? And it was from and is today from that very famous and very well-known passage in 1 Corinthians 13, where the Apostle Paul, who'd been transformed by a love of God to really love others, wrote through the inspiration of the Spirit this marvelous love song. But the word that he uses throughout that love song is the word agape. And agape is this ideal or selfless love. It is a God-like love. And then we're immediately reminded as people who follow the Lord Jesus of the importance of love. Because I'm going to suggest a few things this morning, and they'll be on the screen and they're in your notes, and maybe you can follow along with me if I don't get too far ahead of everybody in the room. But here's the first thing that I'd like you to remember about love, and that is, for the follower of Jesus, love is all that really matters. You see, on occasion, Jesus was asked by some people in his culture, hey, teacher or rabbi or this person who we know has a lot of knowledge about God, what's the greatest commandment of them all? And Jesus, on the spot, has to immediately think through 613 different laws that are part of the Jewish faith and heritage. And he says this in response. He said, here it is, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Because this is the first and it's the greatest commandment. But wait, there is more, because there is a second that is likened unto the first, and that is for us to love our neighbor as ourselves. And then Jesus said, and all of the law and all of the prophets hang on these two commandments. So if we're going to boil it down to the thing that matters most, what we're boiling it down to, Jesus says, is love. Because for the follower of Jesus, it is love, and only love, that really matters. He goes on to say to us as followers of himself, he says, I'm going to up the ante just a little bit. He tells the disciples this hours before he goes to the cross. He says, here's a new commandment that I give to you, those of you who are willing and courageous enough to follow me. My new commandment is that you love one another as I have loved you. And then Jesus, just a few hours later, shows the world and those disciples what that love really looks like, because he'd already said that a friend would lay down his life for his friends, and that there is no greater love than that. And then he will go to the cross and he will lay down his life for his friends. You need to love one another as I have loved you. And how does Jesus love us? So much that he would sacrifice his life that I might have life, that you might have life in him. And this, Jesus says, is the kind of love that when the world looks at us, they will know that we have been with Jesus. They will know because we look so much like Jesus if we are loving one another in the ways that he has loved us. And so for the follower of Jesus, there is nothing that really matters more than love. But then the Apostle Paul is dealing with a church that is known for some really great things. They have some super spectacular spiritual gifts. They have a knowledge base that is unbelievable. They are watching signs and wonders and mountains move because of their faith. And yet Paul senses in this church in Corinth that they lack something. They lack that which Jesus is saying is the main ingredient of our faith. Because that's exactly what he's saying, right? For us as followers of Christ, the highest ethic for us as Christians is love. In other words, it's the main ingredient. If we don't have that, we really don't have anything. It's like going in to order a cherry pie and they've left the cherries out. Or worse for me, you go in and order a banana cream pie and they left out the bananas and the cream because that makes it really good. It's the main ingredient, and without it, we really have nothing at all. Because here's the second thing I want you to see this morning, and that is for the follower of Jesus, without love, nothing else really matters. Now the verse that we look at somewhat specifically, and Joey introduced it to us last week, he's saying, the Apostle Paul, who has been transformed by love, he's saying you can have a whole bunch of stuff, but if you don't have love, you really have nothing at all. So I want you to pretend for a minute that you are invited to your own funeral. I know, it really brought the room down, didn't it? So that's weird. So just pretend for a minute you're invited to my funeral. And here we are, we've rocked up to my funeral, and even though I don't always come across as somebody that is a control freak, I would like to have certain things shared at my funeral and other things left out. And so in order to make sure the pastor, whomever he might be, says the right things, I'm going to write a list. And on that list are probably going to be some of my accomplishments as a father and as a husband and as a son. And I might throw in there that I've pastored several churches in the United States and even one in Australia, that I've been a part of a whole lot of ministries, that I've traveled pretty much around the world now to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. But here's the thing, if any and all of those things are done without love, then none of them are going to matter. And so that's going to be a really embarrassing thing for that pastor as he unfolds that piece of paper and he looks really chagrined and embarrassed at the crowd in front of him, because on that sheet of paper, if all of those things are done without love, that sheet of paper is blank. It doesn't matter, Paul says, if you speak with the tongues of men and of angels. And what he's referring to in this particular instance is a church that's really enamored with this one gift called glossolalia, the speaking in tongues. And it's kind of surpassed everything else in terms of importance. If you speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but you do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Now, I love the drums. I've played the drums since I was in the 3rd grade, but there is nothing more horrible than listening to an elongated drum solo. It's just not meant to be a solo instrument, and it comes across a little bit, even to the trained person, as sort of sounding like a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. That can be everything you're doing without love. He goes on to say this. He says, or I can have the gift of prophecy. That'd be really great, wouldn't it? I mean, you can look into the future. You can prophesy into someone's life. I have the gift of prophecy. I can fathom all mysteries, and I have all knowledge, everything that you want to know about the Bible, everything you want to know about God. All you've got to do is come and ask me, all knowledge. And I can have a faith that moves mountains, signs and wonders that are completely out of this world, supernaturally speaking, but I don't have love. Then I'm not a hero. I'm a zero. I am nothing. Then he goes on to say even more. He says, I can give all I possess to the poor. I mean, I can write the biggest checks, be the most faithful tither, most faithful giver of offerings to missions. I can give all I possess, and I can even give my body over to martyrdom, give my body over to hardship, that I may boast. But if I do not have love, I gain nothing. Because for the follower of Jesus, without love, nothing else matters. So here's the big idea for this morning. It's this big idea that we've encapsulated in this thought, and it is simply this, that ideal love, or the agape love, that selfless love, ideal love is power. But it's power from God that enables us and it energizes us to practice selfless love in a selfish world. I'm never going to get love perfect. You're never going to love perfectly, but ideal love is that allowing the Spirit of God's power to enable and energize us to really practice selflessness or selfless love in what is clearly a very selfish world. And so he said, this is the love that really matters most, especially for the follower of Jesus. And this is what that love looks like. There are some things that it is, and there are some things that it is not, and there are some things that it continues to do. And so he says to us in that center section of this marvelous love song, love is patient, and love is kind. It doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it's not proud. It doesn't dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love doesn't delight in evil, it rejoices with the truth. He goes on to say that it always protects, and it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. Love never fails. So just a little bit of guidance to you guys, because I'm going to go off script just a bit. Can we go back to the first part of that verse? And let's just stay there for a little bit. Here are some things that love that really matters most is. It's first and foremost, it's patient. The word really is long-suffering. And here's the idea. The idea is that all of us as human beings suffer. We've all experienced to some degree or another what it feels like to be lonely, and we've suffered the pain of that, or we've suffered the pain of loss and grief, or we've suffered in some way the rejection of a loyal friendship or someone in our family. Suffering allows us to remain a victim, but long suffering is what allows us to make a choice to really love. Love is patient. It's long-suffering. And if you've run out of patience with somebody that you know, if you've run out of patience with a friend or a family member or someone in your life, then you probably have not gone to the distance of suffering long. Because long-suffering is the patience that allows you to continue to love a person in a really very significantly patient way. Love is kind. You notice that it doesn't tell us what we are so apt to practice in the 21st century church, and that is, it doesn't say love is nice. Because I think nice and kind are somewhat different. If I'm just worried about how you're going to respond to something I say to you, even when I have to bring a word of correction or maybe a loving word of rebuke, you're not going to feel like that's very nice. But it would never be a kind thing for any of us to allow someone in our lives to remain in sin. We're often accused of not being very nice when we point out that there is but one way to God, and it is through Jesus. For there is no other name by which a man is saved but other than Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And people will accuse us of that being not very nice. And they're probably right. It's not very nice. We could just let them be and let them go on with the way they want to live their life. But love is kind. And love is kind enough to say to somebody, listen, you're going to miss it. And you're going to miss it for all of eternity if you don't give your life to the Lord Jesus Christ. Love is kind. It's also something that Paul writes in the negative, and I'll put it in the positive. I would suggest that love is poised. Poised. You know what I'm talking about. You know somebody by the very way that they walk. I mean, if they walk like a gorilla, they don't walk really very poised. But there are certain people that kind of hold themselves with a certain amount of poise. It's a certain amount of grace-filled and graceful approach to life. That's what love looks like. It doesn't then boast, because there is really nothing poised about somebody who toots their own horn, who is always on about what they've done and always boasting about themselves. It takes into consideration this fact that love is poised, that it's not proud. Because nothing is really more horrible than someone who doesn't understand that it's humility that's really important to God, and that He stands opposed to those who are proud. It doesn't dishonor others. It's poised in that it's never rude. We are oftentimes rude with each other. We say things to each other as brothers and sisters that we would never say perhaps to a total stranger. We're rude. We say things and we say it with sort of an edge, and we're not then very poised. It's bringing dishonor to somebody. Well, I was just telling a story about what I heard about so-and-so. No, that's dishonoring to them, and it's rude to them because they're not there to tell their own side of the story or to defend themselves. And then it is always pleased, this wonderful agape love, it's always pleased in the truth. You'll notice that Paul says it this way, that he says it does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth. And honestly, some of us, we take a little bit more delight in evil than we ought to. Like we love, I think, the scandals that we're aware of or hear about. And we like that sense of being on the inside if it's a bit of juicy kind of gossip. It kind of delights us to know that somebody, even somebody in faith or in ministry, has kind of fallen aside or fallen astray. We take a kind of sick delight in some of the things that we hear about going on in our world and even in the church. But love doesn't look like that. Love, it rejoices in the truth. It rejoices with this truth that has saved us, because we understand truth is a person and His name is Jesus. Here's some things that love isn't. Go back again. Sorry. Stay maybe with that one. Paul tells us that it doesn't envy. Or another way we could say that is love is not jealous. But you say, well, isn't jealousy kind of a neutral concept? And you'd be right. Because it would be really, really bad for me to not be jealous of that third person, a man who tries to come in and win the affections of my wife. If I'm not feeling a certain sense of jealousy, there's something dead inside me. God, we're told, is a jealous God. He will not share His love with anyone else, and so He's jealous when we give our attention and we give our sense of worship and we give our sense of awe to idols, whatever those idols might be. It is appropriate then for God to be jealous. But this love song makes it what it is. Jealousy is a horrible thing. It's to be jealous of my spouse for spending time with anybody besides me, to be jealous of her spending time at work, or to be spending time with a favorite girlfriend, or her be spending time with some other endeavor in life. That's jealousy. That's not love. And love is not jealous. Love also, we're told, is not self-seeking. In other words, it has a greater agenda than just me. And the agenda is not selfless, or selfish, it's selfless, it's other-centered. It's not seeking my own way all the time. It's yielding to the people around me. It's also not irritable. Paul says it's not easily angered. But I would use the phrase, it's simply not irritable. So test how you're doing with the irritability gauge. And do that when you're driving. So I think what Paul is on about here is he's basically saying, it's not wrong to be angry. There are some things that we need to be angry about. If there's evil in the world, if there's injustice, then there's something that love demands we become angry about. But that's not what he's talking about here. He's talking about irritability. It's like people wearing their rage on their shirt sleeve, right on the surface of things, so that the littlest thing that somebody says or the littlest thing that someone does, they immediately burst into sort of an angry response. Love is not irritable, and love is not resentful. Paul says it this way: it keeps no record of wrongs. I can't think of anything that keeps a better record of wrongs than resentment. You've been in those kinds of conversations, right, with probably somebody that you love and that loves you back, but every time you get into some kind of a heated argument or discussion, they go back and